Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Talk Soccer to Me, a soccer show from the US of A, telling you everything that is going on in the world of Premier League and European soccer. Few things about the show. This is a rage bait free, nostalgia free, best 11, talking about everything but what's actually happening on the field free show. We're just here to recap everything from the previous week's games and highlight everything going forward. We're at Talk Soccer to Me on all social media platforms, so we'll shout that out real quick. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Today is Tuesday, August 26, 2025. Let's get started. This is the first episode back at the start of the new season. We were on vacation for the first match week of the Premier League, so I do apologize for that, but we're going to get the ball running. We're going to hit the ground running. The ball is rolling. We're hitting the ground running. It's week 2. Match week 2 started off on Friday, Chelsea versus West Ham. There was no Cole Palmer. That was kind of the big storyline going into this game. He's been suffering a groin injury. It may or may not be a serious groin injury. Chelsea are still waiting the results of testing. It's Tuesday, so it's a couple days after this game we're about to talk about. They have an upcoming game this weekend, and Cole Palmer did not train today. But the show did go on without Cole Palmer. There were still 22 players on each team that did start on the field, and it started off better for West Ham. Early into the game, 6 minutes in, Lucas Paquetá, he got it started off early. It was a wonderful, wonderful strike 6 minutes in. 25 yards out across the goalie. It shouldn't have worked. It typically, shots like that, anytime you hear that far out going across the goalie's face, it shouldn't have worked, but it did. It was a beautiful combination of power and precision, but it didn't last for long. They didn't keep the lead for 10 minutes as West Ham conceded another goal from a corner, something that plagued them in their loss in the first match week to Sunderland, as João Pedro got his head on the second ball to tie it up in the 15th minute. João Pedro with his first Premier League goal since being a new Chelsea signing. West Ham then fought back right after. Nicholas Füllkrug scored right after that, but VAR called the goal back as West Ham were offsides in the build-up, and it was one of those ones where VAR took forever to call it back, and it's just kind of a bummer. Because, you celebrate, you think you got the goal, 2-1, we're in for a shootout, but the shootout was only one way, because it just literally less than 3 minutes later, Pedro Neto made it 2-1. Paquetá lost the ball in kind of a dangerous spot. João Pedro kept his goals and assist tally going. He shoots in a cross, and Pedro Neto is able to make it 2-1. The good first half for Chelsea kept going as Estevao, playing on the right wing, got the ball commanded down the right side with a very strong run, got it into the box, set up Enzo to make it 3-1. It was a good crash into the box by Enzo Fernandez, very Lampard-esque. About 9 minutes into the second half, Moise Caicedo made it 4-1 on his 100th appearance for Chelsea. Pretty poor goalkeeping from the West Ham goalie. Caicedo can just kind of toe poke it in. I believe it was another corner. Corner is just really being the bane of West Ham's season so far. And then another corner goes in. Chelsea score. West Ham made a mess of it 4 minutes later in the 58th minute. They can't clear it, and Trevor Chalobah is able to get his first goal for the season and make it 5-1 Chelsea, which ended up being our final score. Great result for Chelsea. They looked a little rusty in match week 1 against Crystal Palace coming off of the Club World Cup. So to bounce back with a commanding 5-1 victory over West Ham United is great. They looked great without Palmer. They did look like they struggled a little bit in the beginning of the game to advance the ball into the final third, but that didn't seem to be a problem. They were pretty well organized. Anytime a team can get significant contributions from set pieces, that means typically they're a pretty well organized team. Things are going well in training. And yeah, overall, just great result for Chelsea. They really thrashed them. They can look back on some of their new signings and be really happy with the way they looked. Specifically, João Pedro netting a goal and assist. Estevao getting an assist himself. Some really strong runs down the right side. Jamie Gittins was able to make some appearances. Overall, the team looked pretty good, and I can't say the same for their counterparts. Pretty shocking start to the season for West Ham. That now makes 2 defeats in 2 games. They've given up 8 goals while only scoring 1. They've conceded from a number of set pieces, which is indicative of an undisciplined team. And things are just not looking good so far. They're not clicking. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was completely tore up on the right side of his field by the left side of Chelsea's attack, Pedro Neto, Marc Cucurella. You wonder where the weakness is with West Ham right now. I mean, they had just as many shot attempts and more corner kicks than Chelsea. They did hold a strong amount of possession, but they never really felt too threatening after the Füllkrug goal was called back for offside. Hermansen, the goalkeeper, looked really unsure of himself. during clearances. And you got to wonder, Graham Potter's been there for 20 matches. How much longer has he got? Because you really couldn't have started the season off any more poorly. I mean, again, 0-0-2, no wins, 8 conceded in 2 games. The Hammers got to turn something around fast. I don't know if the answer is maybe a signing to strengthen the team before the end of the year, but this is not a good start to West Ham, and I wonder, maybe 6-7 match weeks down the road, where are they going to be? Because it's hard to draw a conclusion this short of time into the season. Like there's still a lot that's going to happen. There's 36 more games to play, but right now through 2, West Ham might be the worst team I've seen in the Premier League so far. Saturday started off Turf Moor. Burnley's home back in the Premier League. It's been several years since we've seen them in the Premier League. They're playing one of the other teams that was promoted from the Championship last season, Sunderland. Sunderland coming off a win against West Ham last week. And, there's a lot of pressure on these promoted teams, as in the last 2 seasons, the 3 teams that have come up from the Championship were the 2 teams that got relegated. So we're really wondering, between them and Leeds United, is someone going to finally break that curse? Is it going to be one of them doing something exceptional, or one of the current Premier League mainstays struggling? But nonetheless, the game did have to start. Sunderland got us started off actually with a really nice set-piece routine. Martin Dubravka, the Burnley goalkeeper, had to make a fantastic save. And in the first quarter hour of the game, Sunderland actually was playing the better soccer. I wonder if it was maybe a continuation of momentum from that wonderful win against West Ham. Burnley then thought they scored a few minutes later, but VAR said there was a foul on the build-up off a long ball, and they pulled the goal back, which I believe was the right call. And the game kind of went flat for a while. I mean, there really wasn't too much to talk about in the first half. There weren't a lot of shots. Possession was just kind of going back and forth. Teams just, holding strong, not wanting to concede. There was like a small chance for Burnley before halftime, but it ended up 0-0 after 45 minutes. And the opposite can be said about the second half. I mean, that one came out strong. Burnley wasted no time, and after some tight play around the box, Anthony set up Josh Cullen, and a tidy finish put it in the bottom right corner. Burnley took the lead 1-0. And then Sunderland kind of pushed on after that. They were trying to find an equalizer, but the dangerous part of soccer is when you push forward, you expose yourself for a counterattack, and that's exactly what happened. It was a reversal of the first goal, as Josh Cullen set up Jaden Anthony, and he made it 2-0 Burnley in the 88th minute to basically put the game away and return to the Premier League with a win at Turf Moor. Again, final score, Burnley 2, Sunderland 0. So in their first home game in 2 seasons in the Premier League, Burnley brought a victory back to Turf Moor. Definitely going to be something to elevate the fans' spirits, and considering they only won 5 games total 2 years ago, this could be a great feeling. Sunderland, if I was a Sunderland fan, I wouldn't be too upset. You've got 3 points through 2 games, and as I spoke earlier, it is known how difficult it can be for recently promoted teams to stay up in the Premier League. So the question is, what's it going to be going forward? Are they going to hit the kind of rule of thumb 40 points that is required to stay up? Are these teams going to struggle? I don't really have a large sample size. Their signings are still new. Hell, they could still make a couple signings before the end of the season. So I think both teams are in a good place. I think Burnley's going to be really happy coming out of today. And it's just going to be a waiting game. How are these teams going to progress? How are they going to look 5, 10, 15 games in the season? And are we finally going to have a team stay up in the Premier League? Next up, we saw Tottenham head to last year's third place team, Manchester City. Tottenham, of course, the reigning Europa League champions. And it's going to be an interesting matchup. Tottenham's always been kind of a bogey team for Manchester City. There was an early chance for Omar Marmoush for Manchester City. Kind of a poorly dealt with long ball by Pedro Porro, who's usually pretty reliable. Vicario then had to make a save, and then another save on Marmoush to keep the ball out. And it kind of looked like it was Man City in the beginning, but nothing too crazy. 34 minutes in, Tottenham hit Manchester City with a long ball. Richarlison, he found Brennan Johnson with a strong pass across the box. There was really nothing Trafford could do. He didn't get a strong enough arm on it. And just like that, kind of against the run of play, but not terribly, Tottenham were up 1-0. And then just not too long after that, a few minutes later in the extra time of the halftime, the injury time of halftime, Trafford's day got even worse. He was trying to play it out of the back, and it went horribly. He was looking for Nico Gonzalez. Nico Gonzalez was covered by a man. Why would you pass to a man who's explicitly wrapped up in the box? It kind of went sideways from there. Tottenham didn't actually score on their first chance. I think it was Richarlison who got the first chance on it, but Joao Paulinho was able to make it 2-0, and Tottenham went into halftime with the 2-0 lead. Actually, there was a decent chance for Erling Haaland before halftime, but he was not able to bring a header down. Nothing too serious. And yeah, Tottenham 2-0, halftime. It's great at Manchester City. And then actually, out of the break, Tottenham almost made the same mistake that Manchester City did, playing it out of the back. Haaland was pressing hard, running like a madman. They were kind of really lucky to get out of the mess that was created between Vicario and Van de Ven. Maybe instead of passing it forward, he passed it to the side when there was clearly a man who was all over him. But, sometimes Lady Luck is someone that you want in your corner, and it worked out that way for Tottenham. And then the rest of the game, Tottenham were kind of in control. I mean, yeah, Manchester City had the possessions, but it never really felt threatening. I mean, at no point after that debacle in the 53rd minute did I think, oh yeah, Manchester City's going to score here. Manchester City's going to come back. I didn't think that at all during the game. Yeah, I mean, Tottenham were very sure of themselves defensively. They looked promising on the counter. Mickey Van de Ven just continues to impress me every time I watch him. And yeah, that's the final score. Tottenham 2, Manchester City nothing. Yeah. It came into Manchester City 1-2-0. Before I really even specifically talk about a single team, how come no matter what situation the respective teams are in, Tottenham's always, it feels like, is going to get a result against Manchester City? I mean, they could be playing great. They could be playing terribly. Manchester City could be the best team in the world. Manchester City could be slightly below average compared to their usual selves, but Tottenham will always get a result against them. Why is that? Because it's not like, oh, Thomas Frank gets the better of Pep Guardiola. It happened under Ange. It happened under Mauricio Pochettino. It does not matter what state Tottenham is in, they will get a result against Manchester City. Going back to that Champions League quarterfinals a couple years ago, you almost makes you wonder, like, the deal that Pep Guardiola make was like, oh yeah, you're going to be the greatest manager ever. You're going to win a boatload of trophies. You're going to have success no matter where you go. Oh yeah, by the way though, you're going to struggle against Tottenham Hotspur. It's crazy. It does not matter. There is no logic. There is no consistency. Tottenham will always give it to Manchester City, regardless of what's going on in the world. I don't think it's insane to say that this has been a very strong start to the season for Tottenham Hotspur. They looked very promising in the European Super Cup against PSG. I don't care if they blew the lead in the end. I think everyone on the internet was expecting Tottenham to lose by like 4 or 5. So when they came out and gave the game to PSG and tactically dominated all until the last few minutes, I was impressed. They looked good in their first game of the season, won 3-0, and now coming into Manchester City, winning 2-0, never really feeling like they were the inferior team at any point. And they just looked very sure of themselves, very sound, very tactically sound. I mean, yeah, they made their mistakes along the way, but the way they settled into the game and just, stepped back, but then also were strong going forward, you got to wonder, like, okay, if, Thomas Frank can really start to set in tactically and just get Tottenham with his system. Because, again, we're only 3 games, or Tottenham are 3 games into the season. The future could be bright. I mean, they've got the Champions League, which is going to be a lot. Maybe they'll want to pick up another signing or two. But the ones they have look great. I mean, Mohamed Kudus is a fantastic signing. He's looked great so far this season. This is, I think, going to be a better Tottenham Hotspur team. I don't think this is going to be the same one that finished 17th last year. I wonder if you can do like an opposite of the Sir Alex Ferguson, lads, it's Tottenham, for Manchester City. Pep Guardiola saying, lads, it's Tottenham, and that's why we always kind of struggle against them. I don't really know what to make of this Manchester City team so far. They looked so sure of themselves and just soundly defeated Wolves last week. And they come out and they look uncomfortable and disjointed against Tottenham this week. Pep did really well to get the Manchester City boys finishing 3rd at the end of last year. They kind of surprised everyone because they were so written off. They went through this really nasty streak where they were losing to teams like PSV Eindhoven and just poor results in the league. I think it might be maybe a little bit more the same of that this year. Because, yeah, while they looked great against Wolves, they looked really poor against Tottenham. And I don't think this is the same Manchester City team that dominated the Premier League in years past. I do like their signings. I think their signings were really smart, but it may take a minute to kick in. It's something isn't clicking. But it's too early to rush a judgment. So we'll see. We'll see if this is just the normal Tottenham struggles or if this Manchester City team is like good, really good, but not the great teams of Manchester City past. But alas, we have to move on. in the Premier League, Bournemouth versus Wolves. Bournemouth Stadium, I think it's Vitality Stadium, can actually make for some of the worst watching. It's the same complaint I hold towards Wembley Stadium, where the angle of the sun just makes the field look so bright that sometimes you can't really see what you're looking at. And I don't know, that's just like a sort of a pet peeve of mine. But that's besides the point. The game started out great, actually. I mean, both teams had decent chances in the first, 100 seconds. The early game theatrics actually continued. It was a bit of a back and forth. The American, Tyler Adams, he won the ball at about the start of the Wolves' third of the field. Was able to get the ball to Antoine Semenyo. He then found Tavernier in a strong finish, but Bournemouth up 1-0 at home within 5 minutes. Semenyo then hit the bar off of a cross in the 9th minute. Jurgen Strand-Larsen then gave Wolves their first good chance of the game. And that was in the 17th minute. I mean, it really was a very exciting first 20 minutes of the game. But then that was kind of it. I mean, after the first exciting 20 minutes, there was nothing that happened for the rest of the first half. The Wolves captain, Tati Gomez, he tripped Evan Nilsson, the Bournemouth forward, after a pass got behind him. He stopped the one-on-one before it got into the box, so you stop the foul before it gets in the box, there can't be a penalty. It's going to be a clear red. Jose Sa, the Wolves goalie, actually had a pretty decent save on the, again, American, Tyler Adams. Big American soccer player fans over here, specifically Tyler Adams. In my opinion, the best American in Europe, but him and Johnny Cardoso should be our midfield for the 2026 World Cup, but I'm getting off track. With Wolves down a man from the 49th minute on, it was kind of hard for them to chase the game, and Bournemouth were just kind of laying on the chances towards the end of the game. And then that was it. Yeah, I mean, definitely, there were a few games this weekend that weren't the most exciting in the world of Premier League, and this was one of them. Kind of one-sided the entire way, and it finished 1-0 to Bournemouth at home. I was a little worried about Bournemouth. They suffered a lot in this transfer window. They lost a bunch of good players to teams like Real Madrid and so on and so forth. So for them to come out, get a nice little 1-0 victory at home, never really looked threatened, they'll take it. Wolves are having a pretty poor start to the year. They got absolutely destroyed by Manchester City a week ago. They now come out and don't really put up much of a fight against Bournemouth. Their captain gets a red card. It's not a great start to the season. I don't really have any summer signings from Wolves that have excited me. So these were two teams in the Premier League that I'm not too hot on. And one's got to win after 2 games and one doesn't. So we'll have to see where this season takes us for Wolverhampton Wanderers, and maybe in a couple games have a better opinion for you. We're going to keep the Premier League games that weren't too exciting on Saturday. We're going to keep that rolling as Brentford hosted Aston Villa. Damsgaard actually got us started with what would have been the best goal of the week and definitely made this game a little more exciting as he danced through Villa players like it was nothing in the 3rd minute, but the finish just wasn't there. He pushed it wide of the goal. And then 12 minutes in, club record signing Dengo Ouattara opened the scoring for Brentford after getting a run past the Villa defenders from a long ball. Just like last year, it feels like the long ball is kind of back. I've seen a bunch of chances and goals result from long balls over the top. Maybe it's the answer for this insane pressing that we've seen so far. Kevin Shada, in my opinion, actually saved a goal for Brentford. He was able to put his head in front of a Yuri Tielemans shot in the 31st minute off a corner that I think was definitely going to go in. And then after that point, the game really wasn't that exciting. Aston Villa pushed on, but none of their chances were solid. I mean, they dominated possession, and Brentford had 1 or 2 chances as the game went on. But they were really just trying to hold on to their 1-0 lead. That was their objective. And it turned out to be successful. They held on to the lead. They sat back. They defended. And, yeah, good win for Brentford, where they picked one up after a loss in the first week. Aston Villa, a little concerning. Weren't able to really sign players. Had to sell guys due to their, I think, rather poor management of all their wages. 1 point through the first 2 games for Unai Emery and his men. So we'll see. They're not in Europe like they were last year. I do think it's a good team. Jordan Henderson actually played in this game. First time in the Premier League in a good while. Yeah, no, this is a game that had me talking about Jordan Henderson's return to the Premier League, after he was at Ajax in Saudi Arabia. They got me talking about Jordan Henderson. So Brentford will take it. Villa are definitely going to want to turn their season around. Not the start that they were looking for, obviously. And yeah, we're going to move on because I frankly don't want to talk about this game much longer. It was not easy on the eyes. Final game on the Premier League Saturday slot was Arsenal hosting Leeds United. The home debut for the Gunners so far this season. They got started off pretty strong. Odegaard had a decent chance early on with a shot outside the box, some link-up play between him and Bukayo Saka, and then a successful Arsenal press of Leeds trying to play it out of the back. It should have resulted in a goal. Victor Gyökeres ended up with the ball right in front of the goal. I don't think he realized he had as much time, or really where he was. He just tried to do it as quickly as possible, and it frankly looked pretty embarrassing as he was not able to get the ball in the back of the net. Leeds United then had their best chance of the game, as around some point in the 20-minute mark, they had a corner. David Raya was required to make a pretty good save out of it, and then Arsenal showed Leeds how to actually do a corner. Set piece FC struck again in the 34th minute. As Jurrien Timber got the slightest head on a Declan Rice cross, it found the bottom corner perfectly, and Arsenal scored another goal on a corner kick. And before halftime, Arsenal were able to make it 2-0 as Zubimendi won the ball back in kind of a dangerous position. Jurrien Timber then found Bukayo Saka down the right side, and a pretty thumping finish from the Arsenal homegrown talent who was wearing the armband at the time. They strengthened their lead going into halftime. And then right after halftime, Victor Gyökeres finally found the net as a Arsenal player in his second appearance. He took a long ball from Calafiori, dribbled past two players from the left side of the box, and finished with a strong finish that went across his momentum back into the bottom left corner of the goal. Finally throwing up that kind of iconic celebration in the Emirates. And then it was all Arsenal from this point on during the game. There were chances for the youngsters, Ethan Nwaneri and Max Dowman. Another Rice corner resulted in another Jurrien Timber goal. He bagged his second after some chaos and calamity in the box. Leeds United were not able to successfully defend it. I believe Ricardo Calafiori was trying to get a chance on it, and after he scored his goal from a corner against Manchester United the week before, but it was Jurrien Timber again. And then towards the end of the game, in the 95th minute, the youngster Max Dowman was kind of just playing around with the Leeds United defenders, and he was fouled in the box. I thought it was a little bit of a soft foul, but Arsenal fans will take it nonetheless. And it was strongly finished by Victor Gyökeres, who was able to pick up the double in front of his new team's home fans. I think Arsenal fans really needed that one. Their play against Manchester United a week ago was subpar. Manchester United were, without a doubt, the better team on the field, and I think they were kind of lucky to walk away with a 1-0 victory. So to put down Leeds United, yes, they are a recently promoted team, but it's the Premier League, and anytime you can get 5 goals past someone and then bring on guys like Mosquera and Dowman for their home debuts, really give guys a break, it was a good result. They scored 2 goals from open play, a penalty. I know they're controversially sometimes maybe called set piece FC, but they do it well and keep on doing it. I mean, that's 2 goals off corners. It's going to be great. I mean, it's a good result. I think the one kind of pressing concern were the injuries to Martin Odegaard's shoulder and Bukayo Saka's hamstring. Right now, as of Tuesday, it's looking like Bukayo Saka may be out for about 3 to 4 weeks. I don't know if there is a verdict regarding Odegaard, but for once, Arsenal fans aren't completely panicked because the problem that really plagued them last year was their injury depth. And this year, I think they'll be fine. I mean, they've got Eberechi Esse coming out, probably going to make his first debut against Liverpool. There was plenty of other talent that didn't go into the game or weren't even on the bench. Max Dowman, at 15 years old, looks great. I mean, yes, he's young. You don't want to play him too much. But good Lord, coming off the bench, looked like a Premier League regular. Ethan Nwaneri, as good as always. It was a good win for Arsenal. They really needed it. I know some fans had some doubts. Some of the preseason performances weren't up to standard. And the end of the season was kind of disappointing, struggling in the league, and ultimately losing to PSG in the Champions League semifinals. All in all, it's a good day. It was a good day to be an Arsenal fan. As we kept our Premier League Sunday rolling, Crystal Palace hosted Nottingham Forest, the reigning FA Cup champions, Crystal Palace FC. Bit of a controversial game as Nottingham Forest took Crystal Palace's place in the Europa League going into the season. It was an issue with multi-club ownership, as some of the owners of Crystal Palace they aren't anymore, but at the time they were owners of Lyon in France, and at one point it was speculated that Lyon could get relegated to the 4th division in France due to financial issues, or maybe it was the 2nd division, and that would have removed them from the Europa League. And then they weren't, and then it was Crystal Palace, and they were back, and they protested it, and now it's looking like Crystal Palace is going to play in the Conference League, while Nottingham Forest has effectively taken their spot in the Europa League. Obviously, it's not Nottingham Forest's fault that Crystal Palace were to suffer that indictment, but you got to wonder if there's some reservations nonetheless. And as the game started, there was some strong possession early on for Crystal Palace. Some chances, nothing too crazy at the beginning of the game. Strong Palace possession, actually saw the ball get passed around a good bit. Went from Adam Wharton to Daniel Munoz to Ismail Sarr, who was perfectly positioned in the box. He opened the scoring in the 36th minute, really got the game going. Before halftime, Marquet, he had a header from a short free kick that hit the post. When originally watching, I was like, that's tough. But on replay, you realize it was a better chance, actually, and he should have done better. Probably should have put it in the back of the net, aimed for the bottom left corner. Don't know why he went for the front post. This was a type of game that had me writing down stuff like the Nottingham Forest goalie got booked while down 1-0 on a goal kick for time wasting, which why would someone get in trouble for time wasting when they're down 1-0? But then Nottingham Forest did get their chance. The forward, Dan Ndoye, made a wonderful pass to the former Chelsea man, Callum Hudson-Odoi. The pass split the defense perfectly. He got a step on Tyrick Mitchell, and there was nothing Dean Henderson could do, maybe come out of his box a little bit better, and he tied the game 1-1. Outside of the goals, the most of the excitement came from the 6 yellow cards that were given out throughout the game. And yeah, it kind of ended as a meek 1-1 draw. Maybe I'm being greedy, but I was hoping more from two teams that had such successful seasons last year. Nottingham Forest finishing 7th, Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup, and then at the beginning of this season winning the English Community Shield. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. You don't get the most exciting games. I think Palace is going to rue the fact that with that Marquet chance at the end of the first half, they did have a really reasonable shot to make it 2-0. They weren't able to do that. When you're coming from a lead position at home to give up a tying goal, it's always going to be frustrating. Yeah, I mean, that was really it. These teams really didn't give me a lot to work with. Forest is in a better spot with 4 points after 2 games. Palace is sitting with 2 draws. But, teams like Chelsea and Nottingham Forest, it's not the worst thing in the world. They've only given up 1 goal so far. So again, it's early in the season. It's hard to make a definitive opinion about either of these teams. I'm more excited to see how are they going to do with the balancing of that Thursday to Sunday Premier League, Europa League, Conference League rotation, and the depth that is needed to have success in both the Premier League and in Europe. That's all I really got for this game. We just kept our Sunday going. Everton hosting Brighton. This was a really cool game. This was the first game at Everton's new Riverside Stadium. That's actually not the name, but it's next to a river. Stadium looked really wonderful. I saw some comments on social media that it looked a little Bundesliga-esque, and people are always not going to be receptive to change at first. But for me, I thought it looked pretty present, looked very sleek, looked very modern, and it definitely seemed like a very exciting atmosphere to start the game. And the game was really started by Iliman Ndiaye for Everton. He had some fabulous dribbling, but it really wasn't able to turn out anything. Karu Mitoma for Brighton a few minutes later nearly scored a worldie. I mean, the way he flicked the ball against the run of play over the defender's heads, tried for the second time, didn't really work. The lovely flick kind of really reminded me of, some older, you see those older, like late 80s Premier League, or I guess it wasn't the Premier League, it was the first division at the time, highlights, where I swear those balls were just like a little heavier. They could just control them a little bit more. If they tried to flick it up, it didn't go flying. Some of Thierry Henry's early goals look like that, where I think just the weight of it changed the direction. But that's besides the point. It didn't score, so it didn't matter. Brighton are going to be really upset because Danny Welbeck, he missed a really good chance right in front of the box as a striker. Should have really capitalized on that. And they that's one of the things in sports. If you don't make the most of your chances, the other team will. Jack Grealish sent a strong ball across the goal after some decent dribbling, and Ndiaye was right there. He finished it 23 minutes up. Everton are leading 1-0. I mean, it was a really lively first half. Brighton had several opportunities to get their opening goal, but it wasn't the case. Jordan Pickford then actually had to make a really wonderful save on the midfielder Matt O'Reilly for Brighton. Just really strong game for Pickford. And then James Garner, holy crap. The left back for Everton, what a shot. I mean, it was some decent assists from Grealish. He was really controlling the 2 players, kind of just set the ball up on a platter, and there was a rocket from 25 yards out. He kept it low. It was truly phenomenal. Stayed low. I mean, it was just a great shot. Fantastic shot. And then a few minutes later, Brighton actually won a penalty. A shot in the box was blocked by Kieran Dewsbury-Hall's hands. Nothing really anyone can do about it. Kind of unfortunate situation, but it's ultimately going to be a penalty. Jordan Pickford then, as a slide dog, had all of the stats about the potential Brighton penalty takers on his water bottle. You could see from the television broadcast, Danny Welbeck is a 50-50 chance he was going to go low to either side. Jordan Pickford picked correct. Danny Welbeck, his penalty was all right, but it wasn't great. And there's nothing better than watching a goalie save a penalty. It really does have the atmosphere of a goal, and it's the closest thing that they'll ever get to it. Really just poor day for Danny Welbeck. And then Jack Grealish should have had a third assist, but a wonderful pass in the box was let down by Premier League vet Dwight McNeil. And yeah, that was the final result. Really nothing more Brighton did throughout the rest of the game. They had their fair chances early on, but since they weren't able to capitalize, it was Everton's day. Final score at the new stadium, Everton 2, Brighton nothing. It's actually referred to as Hill Dickinson Stadium, and it's at 51,759 people out of Liverpool, England, for the first ever game. In terms of debuting a new stadium, could you have asked for a better day for Everton? I mean, it had everything you'd want. Your marquee signing in the summer looked incredibly strong. That was Jack Grealish, 2 assists. You scored a worldie, and that was James Garner's shot, right there for the fans. Your keeper saved the penalty, Jordan Pickford, and you kept a clean sheet. You scored another goal from open play. You looked strong. You got the win. I mean, in terms of what you can do for your fans in their first time in a stadium, you couldn't have written a better script for Everton. I mean, maybe like a comeback where they get 2 goals in the last 5 minutes or something. But they got to see it all. Strong play defensively, strong play offensively. Stadium looks wonderful. It's a wonderful day to be an Everton fan. I think towards the end of last season, the improvement in soccer that David Moyes had them playing is going to continue into this season. I think the potential's there for this to be a stronger Everton side than in years past. I don't think this is going to be one that's been floating in the bottom 5 teams. I could be wrong. I mean, they lost last week, but good result. You can't ask for more. You didn't even. This is the game too where you can just kind of throw out tactics. It doesn't matter how they played. Well, this and that. It was vibes. They scored bangers. They saved penalties. They won at their home stadium. That's awesome. That's what this is about. It looked truly phenomenal for Everton fans. Yeah, not a great day for Brighton. 1 point through 2 games in the season. They had the opportunities. They weren't able to finish them. Really just probably a frustrating day. Danny Welbeck with an all-time just poor day. And yeah, once they got out of this game, they got out of this game. It'll be interesting to see how Brighton turns out this year. You know, one of those teams has always kind of played, exciting football in the last 5-6 years. But I'm not too sure about them this year. I can't say I'm overtly confident in their abilities. I don't know. Again, you can't make any damning statements about teams that have only played 2 games so far. So we'll keep an eye out. Got some Carabao Cup coming up this week. More Premier League this weekend. We'll see. The final game on Sunday was Fulham hosting Manchester United. Manchester United coming into this game kind of on the heels of a disappointing result against Arsenal. I've harped on this earlier when I was talking about Arsenal, but just how much better Manchester United played in that game. Kind of encouraging, but to not come away with a result. They definitely knew they came into Craven Cottage looking for that, and right off the bat, Manchester United were solid. I mean, 2 chances, I think one for Matheus Cunha and one from Bruno Fernandes, right away. And then a long ball over the top. Cunha was in again for Manchester United. So first 3 solid chances of the game all went to United. And then a couple corners around the 30-minute mark, Fulham had their shots. Then around the 36th minute, Manchester United earned a penalty. Mason Mount was essentially tackled in the box. It was iffy. I mean, it's one of those decisions where I can totally see it going either way. I see why they called the foul. I understand why they called the foul. And I think they're making more of a decision to call those fouls when someone's tackled in the box, even if it's away from the ball. And so I think it's going to be the new norm. It was called, and then Bruno Fernandes follows it up with an awful penalty. I mean, absolutely skied it. Ball don't lie, I suppose. Maybe it wasn't supposed to get into the net. And that took the game 0-0 into halftime. United actually opened up the second half with a goal. It appeared as though it was a Lenny Yoro goal at first, but it turned out to be an own goal off Rodrigo Muñoz. Came off Yoro's head, but then went right off the back of Muñoz, and it would never went in the goal in the first place. From that point on, it was all Fulham as they were chasing for the equalizer. Alex Iwobi then finds Emile Smith-Rowe in a Arsenal Highbury connection to tie the game up. It was a wonderful cross from the left side from Iwobi, and Smith-Rowe with a dashing run in just gets the right touch on it, enough to get past the Manchester United goalkeeper. I'd say towards the end of the game, from the 80-minute point on, both teams had one decent chance. Fulham carrying the momentum of their goal. Manchester United, I believe it was a corner kick, and Harry Maguire was able to get his head on it, but ultimately it didn't result in anything. And our final score out of London, Fulham 1, Manchester United 1. So that's now 2 games in a row where Manchester United are going to walk away incredibly disappointed. 1 point out of the first 2 games. I mean, just kind of like Arsenal last week, I thought Manchester United were the better team during the game. In those first 20 minutes while watching it, I just simply couldn't believe that they hadn't put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, they were attacking. I know like the post was hit once and there was chance after chance after chance. The penalty situation was unfortunate, and then when they finally score, it's like they reverted back to old bad Manchester United. They look like a shell of themselves. I know Ruben Amorim went on record saying that they forgot how to play after scoring against Fulham, and that was a pretty accurate description of what happened. I do believe this Manchester United team is improved from last year. They look better. They seem more fluid. Maybe it's Amorim's system. Maybe it's the few signings they made over the summer, and Buemo and Cunha, but they're still lacking something. Maybe it's unlucky. I mean, that's a realistic possibility. I feel as though at times they were unlucky against Arsenal. Arsenal, though, still have a stellar defense, so you can dominate a game against them and still lose. But I do think this Manchester United team is very close. They're very close to being a, maybe not elite squad, but definitely someone who's going to finish in the top half compared to their very disappointing, 16th place finish last year. The steps are being made in the right direction, but just with the nature of this club and the expectations, can they get back into Europe? And I don't see that happening right now. Maybe a significant cup run. But yeah, here's improvements. It's a better Manchester United team, but it's still probably not at the expectations of the fan base, and considering the amount of money that this club has regularly spent on players in the last couple of years. Decent result for Fulham. I mean, anytime you're down a goal and you can fight back and have the will to win, it's impressive, really. I did think, for the large part of the game, they were the lesser team, but they just kept fighting, kept going after it, and were able to successfully get one on Manchester United. It's 2 draws now in 2 games. Obviously not the start that I think Fulham expects, but with, I believe, really just a lack of signings so far this summer. 2 decent draws so far. I think they'll take it, and I wonder if at any point before the transfer window they will finally sign someone. Then we got some Monday Night Football. Newcastle United hosting Liverpool. Obviously, this game is going to come with a lot of drama with the Alexander Isak transfer speculation. Newcastle not wanting to sell him to Liverpool. Liverpool pursuing him, and just everything falling out. Isak not playing right now. So this had a lot of emotion going into it that typically probably wouldn't have been there. Just between Newcastle and Liverpool, I can't say they're traditional rivals. I mean, Newcastle has really improved in the last couple of years, and it has upped the ante in terms of just the quality of teams in this matchup. But the Isak drama really, took it to a new spot. Definitely kept a lot of eyes on it for Monday Night Football. And the game, it started out all right. I mean, St. James Park's always a fantastic atmosphere. It was lively. That place just erupts. And Fabian Schär actually gave us the first taste of action, but it wasn't for his own team. Gave the ball up. Florian Wirtz was able to get on it, and he had a decent chance, but he wasn't able to convert it. It really felt like it was all Newcastle in the first half hour. Anthony Gordon specifically, that kid was all over the place, but considering he comes from Everton, it maybe means a little bit more to him. And then Konate made a mistake back in the defense, and Liverpool were really lucky to get out of it. And again, it was just all Newcastle. And then out of nowhere against the run of play, Ryan Gravenbach scores. Gets the ball on the top, outside of the box, gets a favorable slight deflection. Maybe that's why you take the shots. It gets past Nick Pope. He never had a chance. And then going into halftime, thinking the game was going to end 1-0, Anthony Gordon got a straight red card on a late tackle against Virgil van Dijk. It felt a little harsh. I mean, it was a gnarly tackle, and maybe red card is fair. I could really see it go either way, but whenever I feel hesitant about whether or not a red card should be given out, I tend to want to lean towards yellow card because I just want to see everyone playing in the game. I mean, 11-10, for a team that's already up 1-0 as a neutral fan, it's not going to be as fun. And Liverpool capitalized on that one-man difference. They came out of the second half. Ekitike continued his wonderful scoring run with a sharp finish at the end of a Liverpool counterattack. It was a proper striker's finish, just with the side of the foot in the back of the net. Exactly what you want. With the game being 2-0 in the 46th minute, I thought Liverpool, it was done. They were going to run away with it, and that just wasn't the case. Newcastle came fighting right back. Bruno Guimaraes got a second chance after a long throw. They kind of cleared it, went back in, and he out-muscled Kirksey for a perfect header. Milos Kirksey. Sorry, mispronunciation. Guimaraes just got up, muscled him out, put it in the back of the net. It was 2-1. All the momentum was heading towards Newcastle, and then a long ball up gets past, I believe it was Dan Byrne who was up there, and Asula, he was through on goal, and just the tidiest little finish at full speed right under Alisson Becker. Asula came into his own really at the end of last season for Newcastle, and just like that, it was 2-0. And Newcastle was really playing like it was 11-11. They were pushing forward. Even at 2-2, they were attacking. And while you can respect that and, commend it and its bravery, it kind of ended up being their downfall as the 16-year-old Rio Gumois, hope I'm saying that correctly, hit the clutch game-winning goal. I mean, I'd never heard of him. I believe he made his debut in the FA Cup for Liverpool last year. He was left wide open in the box, which probably wouldn't have happened if it was full strength 11-on-11, but that wasn't the case. I believe it was Szoboszlai that was smart to let the ball go. He takes a shot, puts it right in the right side of the goal. 96th, 99th minute in the 11th minute of extra time, or added time. Liverpool 3, Newcastle 2. The 11 minutes of injury time really kind of surprised me, caught off guard. And since it did have a significant impact on the game, and many Newcastle United fans would probably feel slighted that they had to go up against a full-strength Liverpool team for that long, you gotta wonder, like, where does that come from? I mean, there were 3 goals and 2 yellow cards given out in the last 45 minutes. There were a few substitutions, and 6, 7, 8 minutes, I'd understand. That seems to be the new trend in the last few years, specifically since the 2022 World Cup, is to reward longer injury times in response to historical trends of guys diving, the ball being out of play, not too much action. But 11 minutes just kind of felt crazy. Like, I was watching the game and I couldn't believe it. I was like, 11 minutes? This is absurd. And then the 11 minutes ended up costing Newcastle as they lost the game in those 11 minutes. And if I was a Newcastle fan, I would just be, upset about that, because it seems ridiculous. And this isn't a bias against Liverpool. You could replace this with any 2 teams in England, or hell, anyone in world football. But outside of like a significant injury or a serious stoppage in play, anytime I see 11 minutes added on to injury time, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I don't think 3 goals and 2 yellow cards and a couple of substitutions warrants that. I've only seen that a handful of times, and it really surprised me. But with the result, the reigning champions now have 2 wins from 2 games, and I think the one thing that is a little concerning 3 games into their season so far is the fact that they've given up 2 goals in every single game, whether it's Newcastle, Bournemouth, or Crystal Palace during the Community Shield. And you do have to respect Liverpool's almost Kloppian ability to eke out results and keep fighting and keep pushing and win the game. However, if I were to take anything away from the very small sample size that we have so far in the season, it's a little bit of concern in their defensive play. Konate has looked rough at times. I mean, they have Szoboszlai as a makeshift right back, and while I think he's done a fine performance so far, the concern I have for Liverpool's defense is surmounting. I do wonder if they can, kind of steady the ship over the next couple games, reduce the amount of goals they give up. But yeah, 6 goals from the first 3 games isn't ideal, even if you did walk away with 2 wins and one of the games going to penalty kicks after 90 minutes or the full 120. I don't remember with the Community Shield. On the flip side, though, a win like this takes grit. It takes guts. They kept fighting. They get a wonderful opportunity when you have a 16-year-old, a youngster, one of your own, come through and score the goal the way that Rio Moi did. It's going to be awesome. It's going to really motivate the fans. And yeah, St. James Park's a really difficult place to play. If I'm Liverpool, I'm just going to take my 3 points, try to figure out this defense, and move on. That one's got to sting for Newcastle. Anytime you're down 2 goals, you're down to 10 men, and you fight back, you continue to fight back, you get it to 2-2, and you're pushing for that 3rd goal, and you still manage to lose. That's going to be a tough one to swallow. I think the team can be very proud of their players and the way they played. The atmosphere at St. James Park was absolutely electric. They pushed, they fought. They ran like hell. They sat back, they defended well. And sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Liverpool are a fantastic team. They're reigning champions for a reason. And ultimately, there's still a lot of positives, even though Newcastle are 1 point into the season so far through 2 games. I do think there's a lot of potential in this squad, regardless of how the Alec Isaac situation goes. I think they can still hang their heads high. I know it's tough, a loss at home, but to a team like Liverpool in the circumstances in which it had happened, I think Newcastle can be proud of themselves. So it was mainly a Premier League weekend for me, but we're going to go over La Liga, Bundesliga, and Serie A out of Italy real quick. Just kind of sum it up with everything happening with the big clubs. Atletico Madrid kind of kept their poor start to the season going. They got the lead early. Alexander Sorloth opened the scoring in the 8th minute, but Rafa Mir tied the game back up pretty quickly in the 15th minute for Elche, and that's the result that stayed till the end of the game, 1-1. Pretty shocking first two games for Atletico Madrid. They first lost to Espanyol, and now at home with a lead, drawing 1-1 and not doing anything with it towards the end of the game. It's a tough result for Atletico Madrid. I know they're definitely going to want to fix everything going forward this season. Home debut for the American Johnny Cardoso. Very excited with that transfer heading into the 2026 World Cup. In La Liga, there was an absolute thriller at Levante. They're hosting Barcelona. They go up 2-0, and Barcelona come back, pull up the victory. Goals from Pedri in the 49th minute, Ferran Torres in the 52nd minute, and then an own goal in the 91st minute saw Barcelona complete the comeback. A shocking 3-2. They just press, and they got their second win out of 2 games to start the La Liga season. Their main rivals, Real Madrid, were also able to see success this weekend as they played Real Oviedo, and it was kind of the Kylian Mbappe, Vinny Jr. show. Mbappe with goals in the 37th and 83rd minute, Vinny Jr. scoring in the 93rd minute. I think the team looks really strong, just played with fluidity, completely dominated the game, and I think this is the best Mbappe and Vinny have looked together. Rodrigo did get the start. I know there's been a lot of transfer speculation, whether it's rumors of him going to Arsenal. He's been linked with Liverpool at times. I don't think that one's going to happen personally. And he's also been linked with Manchester City. So those are transfers to look out for. But another good result for Real Madrid is they also are 2 wins from 2 games so far to start the season. The other club that can, three clubs in La Liga that can say that are Villarreal, who've got 2 wins, 7 goals, and 0 against so far to start their season. Getafe and Athletic Bilbao also have started out their season quite strongly. Normal mainstays, Atletico Madrid are sitting 13th, Valencia sitting 14th, and Sevilla sitting 18th. I know it's only 2 games in the season, but hey, we can only work with what we got so far. So now we're going to hit on the first weekend of play in Serie A over in Italy. Inter Milan wasted no time in this season, coming out and absolutely dominating Torino 5-0. Goals from Alessandro Bastoni, a double from Marcus Thuram, Lautaro Martinez, and Angio Bonboni. Completed a 5-0 rout, just absolute complete domination at home as Inter looked to get the title back from Napoli. The other game was Juventus starting their season off with a strong 2-0 victory over Parma. Goals from Jonathan David, the recent transfer, the Canadian from Lille, and Dusan Vlahovic in the 84th minute. As, kind of the fallen giant of Juventus looked to get their first Italian title in several years, which seemed like an unrealistic statement 10 years ago, but things do change. Atalanta didn't have the best start of their season as they played Pisa, I believe one of the teams that's recently been promoted, a 1-1 draw that they had to come back and get a goal at home from Gianluca Scamacca in the 50th minute. Definitely going to be looking to improve as the season goes on. Kind of a shocker, Como, the newcomers to the league last year who've seen a pretty fair amount of money dumped into the club, defeated Lazio 2-0 at home. Goals from Anastasios Douvikas and Nico Paz led them for a 2-0 lead. Names like Alvaro Morata, Sergio Roberto, and Patrick Cotone are going to see if they can lead this team to better things. I mean, frankly, it was kind of a domination. 6 goals on target to 1, 19 total shots to 5, 63.4% possession, and an overwhelming amount of corner kicks compared to Lazio. A result that surprised me. Reigning champions Napoli started their season off with a 2-0 win over Sassuolo. Going away from home, it was the Manchester combination of Scott McTominay scoring in the 17th minute and the recent signing Kevin De Bruyne, the Manchester City legend, putting it away in the 57th minute with a 2-0 victory. Kevin De Bruyne on Napoli, the reigning champions of Italy, is something I'm really excited to see. Him and McTominay lining up in that midfield together. Really, really, really interested to see how this is going to turn out this season. He definitely struggled towards the end of the year with Manchester City, but this is a slower league, so maybe it'll benefit him more. Again, like I've said a million times in this podcast, we still just have to wait and see this season. American captain Christian Pulisic started up front for AC Milan, as well as the AC Milan Serie A debut for Luka Modric. They were at home, but it didn't turn out exactly as they wanted. They gave up a goal in the 28th and 61st minute, and a Strahinja Pavlovic goal in the 45th minute wasn't enough. AC Milan, even though they dominated the game in just about every regard, lost 2-1 at Cremonese. A without a doubt disappointing result, especially for Luka Modric's home debut. The fantastic player, one of the greatest midfielders of his generation of all time. Frankly, American Yunus Musa sat on the bench for the entirety of the game for AC Milan. And the final Italian game to loop in was AS Roma, starting their season off strong with a 1-0 win over recent reigning Coppa Italia champions Bologna. A goal from Wesley Francia in the 53rd minute saw Roma pull away with a 1-0 victory. Pretty evenish match, strong team, and it was interesting to see how Roma, kind of perennial fourth place team in Serie A for the last couple of years, is going to do. We're going to head over to the Bundesliga real quick. And the first game we're going to mention is not the first game of the weekend, but it's Leverkusen's 2-1 defeat at the hands of Hoffenheim at home. Jarell Kwanzaa, the recent transfer from Liverpool, was able to get in the back of the net in the 6th minute, but Eric Ten Hag's men started off pretty poorly. The 2023-2024 undefeated champions definitely going to want to improve upon last year when they really weren't able to put up much of a fight against Bayern Munich and then eventually lost them in the Champions League. I know they've had to make several signings away. They've lost Florian Wirtz, Frimpong, this team, and they haven't brought in as much. I know these German teams sometimes rely a little more on the transfer sales than other countries, so it'll be interesting to see what Eric Ten Hag can do with this Bayer Leverkusen lineup. Borussia Dortmund came out of this season pretty disappointing. They had a 3-1 lead against FC St. Pauli, and goals in the 86th and 89th minute they gave up. Eric Anders Smith tied the game up for St. Pauli. Julian Brandt and Sergio Garassi, Valdemar Anton were able to score for Borussia Dortmund, but it was ultimately disappointing as they drew 3-3. I mean, St. Pauli's a decent team, but Dortmund is definitely one of the teams you expect to fight for the Bundesliga title, and this is not a good step in that direction. Bayern Munich started the season off absolutely dominating RB Leipzig. A Premier League hat trick of players scoring for Bayern Munich, a single goal from Luis Diaz in the 32nd minute, a double from Michael Elise in the 27th and 42nd minutes, and then a Harry Kane second half hat trick, 64th, 74th, and 77th minute. And this game's kind of indicative of all the problems that I feel towards the Bundesliga, as this should be an exciting matchup, a potential threat to Bayern Munich's dominance in Leipzig and their talented lineup, and it was not close. It was ultimately pretty one-sided, a demolition of one team compared to the other, and just indicative of how this Bundesliga season is probably going to go. The wonderful storyline of Bayer Leverkusen 2 years ago was a 1 in 15-year occurrence, and if the season's going to be anything like this game on Friday, Bayern Munich's just going to walk away with the title. I mean, it should have been close. It should be a game you were looking forward to. Bayern Munich at home against Leipzig, and instead it just ended up being an absolute domination with 3 goals in the first half and 3 goals in the second half. I just wonder how this Bayern Munich team is going to fare in Europe this year, that's all. So before we get into the segments, I want to highlight some of the games that are going on this week. Carabao Cup, the League Cup in England. I think by the time you listen to this, either Tuesday or Wednesday, some of the results will be final. I know there's some German Cup going on too, as well as the final round of Champions League qualifying. By Wednesday night, we will know the 36 teams in the league phase. Some La Liga going on Wednesday, Celta Vigo versus Real Betis. More Carabao Cup. I believe, quarter or semifinal of the League's Cup in MLS is going to be your soccer action at night. And then Thursday is the Europa League and the Conference League qualifying as we get into the weekend games. Nothing too crazy on Friday. Saturday in the Premier League starts off with Chelsea Fulham. You got Manchester United Burnley, Sunderland Brentford. Tottenham going to try to keep that hot streak going against Bournemouth. Wolves versus Everton. And the day wraps up with Leeds United versus Newcastle United. Real Madrid play Mallorca. Atletico Madrid try to turn around their season against Alavas. Bayern Munich is kind of the headliner game out of Germany as they travel to Augsburg. And on Sunday, August 31st, We started our Premier League Sunday off with Brighton and Hove Albion versus Manchester City. Nottingham Forest against West Ham. West Ham's going to be desperate to get any sort of points there. Kind of the highlight of the weekend, Liverpool, last year's number 1, going up against Arsenal, last year's number 2. Liverpool are currently favored to win that. And then the Sunday wraps up with Aston Villa hosting Crystal Palace. Barcelona go to Real Vallecano at 3:30. Over in Spain, Dortmund play Union Berlin. Some good matches out of Serie A. And on Monday, I don't know if we have anything too interesting going on. No. I think that even almost leads into a international window, which is boring that we're getting an international window this close to the season. But I will complain when we cross that bridge. All right, let's start off with some segments that we're going to do. The first is the best game this week that you did not watch. So the best game in the last week that you did not watch was out of Portugal. Arouca hosted Rayo Ave, and the game was electric. Arouca started off the scoring from Jose Fontana in the 24th minute. They took the lead into halftime, and the second half is when the action picked up. The striker for Rayo Ave, Clayton, tied the game up in the 48th minute, and then in the 75th minute, Arouca actually took the lead back to go up 2-1. Less than a minute later, Clayton then tied the game up 2-2, and then Dario Spikic took the lead for Rayo Ave to give them 3-2 overall. But at home, in front of the crowd of 1,733, Arouca was able to tie the game up with an exciting goal in the 93rd minute. This was a pretty even game, back and forth. And a 3-3 draw juggernaut tied up in the 93rd minute is the most exciting game that you did not watch last week. Portuguese league has just always been super exciting, great, probably 5th, 6th best league in Europe. So the next two segments that we're going to do is a little bit of a nod to Formula One. We're going to talk about our podium players and our back markers. And we're going to get started on our back markers of the week. First back marker of the week was Danny Welbeck, the experienced Premier League striker for Brighton, had a day to forget. First, he fluffed a pretty easy chance in the middle of the box to tie the game up 1-1. And then second was his pretty poor penalty that was saved by Jordan Pickford. Several chances to tie the game up for Brighton against Everton. He missed 2 big chances. Everton went 2-0. The second back marker of the week was Manchester City goalie James Trafford. Definitely a day to forget. He was key in giving the ball away on a pass, playing it out of the back that resulted in the second goal for Tottenham. And on the first goal, you could really make the argument that he should have done better, got a better arm on the ball. But the number one back marker was Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He got absolutely stretched, tore up, defeated by Chelsea, whether it was in the open field play or in the corners. I believe he was to blame for at least 3 of the 5 goals that Chelsea scored last week. This is definitely a weekend to forget for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and that's why he is our number 1 back marker. Now it's time for the other segment, our podium players, our 3 best performances last week. The first podium player, 3rd best performance of the weekend, we're going to give it to Rio Nwa, the youngster for Liverpool who turned 17 in 3 days, came on as a substitute, made a dream debut, got a game-winning goal at St. James's Park. I mean, really just presented with the opportunity, stepped up to the plate, put the ball in the back of the net. Really was an incredible moment for the youngster. Our second podium player, the second best performance of the weekend, we're going to give it to the Arsenal left back, Jurrien Timber. It's pretty rare to see a left back get not 1, but 2 goals, both off of corners with his head and with his foot. He as well got the assist on Bukayo Saka's goal, the thumping finish to make it 2-0 before halftime. One of the better days for Jurrien Timber, and I saw several posts speaking on how good he was if you play FPL. And the number 1 podium player, the man standing tall, is Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish looked absolutely phenomenal in his debut for Everton against Brighton, with just so much emotion going into the game, brand new stadium, everything, getting assists on both of Everton's goals, looking lively, taking on defenders, really just being a presence on that left wing. Jack Grealish was my best player of the weekend. I think he could prove to be Everton's key signing this summer, and he was just phenomenal. I mean, 2 assists, opening debut at home. It's a story writes itself. It really is something straight out of a storybook for all three, really. I mean, the kid from Liverpool getting his first opportunity, Timber having probably the best game of his career stats-wise, and then Jack Grealish showing that he is a world-class player in that fantastic result for Everton. Alrighty, and we should be sitting at the hour mark. If you've made it this far, just want to say I appreciate you. Those are the new segments that we're going to be debuting this season. The best game you did not watch, podium players, and our back markers. Again, this was Talk Soccer to Me, a soccer show from the US of A, telling you everything going on in the world of the Premier League and the rest of Europe. I just want to tell it how it is, what I see on the field. Don't want to rely on crazy rage bait, nostalgia, or any of that other crap. Again, social medias are at Talk Soccer to Me. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, best place to find us. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your grandma, get people listening. If you're here, I love you. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week.